Okay, thank you for the time, Mr. Moderator. Let me present our presentation about our research entitled Heat Transfer Comparison between Continuous and Intermittent Flow Control by Electrical System for Heat Recovery Unit in the Air Conditioning System. And it's been an honor to me to represent our friends, our college in Bali State Polytechnic. Let me introduce my name is Putu Wijaya Sunu. Okay, let's continue with Indonesian government commitment in the energy sector. Our government released Peraturan Pemerintah number 79 in 2014 about kebijakan energi nasional and strengthened with Peraturan Pemerintah number 22 in 2017 about Rencana Umum Energi Nasional. From this legal document, we can see the kind of energy and the prediction of the amount energy used for domestic demand. In the domestic sector, the electrical energy play important role, especially for air conditioning, and mostly the electrical energy uh, is consumed by the air conditioning system. So this is the challenge for us, everyone in this seminar, how to applicate an energy efficient for air conditioning equipment for conservation and sustainability energy in HVAC system. Okay, let's continue with experimental setup. The main component that form a refrigeration system is the compressor, the condenser, expansion valve, and the evaporator. And the figure in our right hand side, this is the three-dimensional view of our experimental setup. And let's back to the left figure. And we install the heat recovery between the compressor line and the condenser line. And the key problem of this research is finding the performance of air conditioning coupled with heat recovery. Basically, the heat recovery is the heat exchanger device which we use in this experiment is a cell and coil type. Now, in this investigation, the circulation of the heat recovery divided into two parts: capturing waste heat process and storing the heat in the thermal storage tank. The thermostat controlling the on-off pump cycle at 40 degrees Celsius. It is important to have a sufficient information and analysis of the amount of energy in waste heat. This parameter will affect the performance of the system. So the circulating water for heat recovery in this experiment was maintained at 13 liters per minute. Uh, for the instrumentation, we use K-type thermocouples to measure the all temperature data, and we are using a data logger with sampling frequency 1 hertz and stored in computer memory. Okay, let's continue with result and discussion. This section discusses about performance of heat recovery in the continuous flow mode compared to the intermittent flow mode. The water volume flow rate is the same for the two circulating flow modes, and their comparative performance are indicating to the performance of the heat recovery and discuss as follows. First, we can see this figure is about the correlation about LMTD, logarithmic temperature difference as a function of time. It is obvious the LMTD for the continuous mode increase slowly until 1800 seconds. It has become more stable after this time. For intermittent flow mode, it is started to increase after 100 and 1800 seconds. We can see with the orange line, and in 1800 second it's starting increasing and being fluctuated as on off cycle. Okay, let's continue with the next graph. In this graph, we the subgraph is comparison in time series about heat absorbed by the water from the refrigerant inside the heat recovery. And the same explanation agreed with the previous figure. The total heat absorbed on continuous flow mode was higher than intermittent flow mode for about 8%. This condition is shown because the flow of intermittent cycle was started in 40 degrees Celsius of heat recovery water temperature. The LMTD and heat absorbed of continuous flow mode is higher than the intermittent flow mode. Okay, now let's see the figure in our left hand side, which describe about the time series temperature of the thermal storage tank. It is shown that the temperature of the continuous flow, the blue line, increase gradually from the starting time. Meanwhile, for the intermittent flow, the orange one, The temperature of thermal storage tank started to increase after 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, as described in the previous uh, figure, it's also in the LMTT and heat absorbed. It's starting about 1,800 seconds or 30 minutes. Now we can see the continuous flow have better performance for the thermal storage tank temperature compared to that of the intermittent flow. Now let's continue with the figure on the right hand side. In this graph, show the comparison of the pumping power between continuous mode and intermittent mode in 60 minutes for one house, and clearly seen that the pumping power for the continuous flow mode was relatively stable since at the beginning. On the other hand, for the intermittent flow mode, the pumping power was zero about until uh, 25 minutes, and then increased gradually and reached about almost the same value with continuous mode. The setting of the water temperature cycle for intermittent flow mode highly affect to the total energy consumption. For continuous flow mode, that the energy consumption about 393 watt hour, and for intermittent flow mode is about 165 watt hour. We can calculate the saving energy about 58%. Okay, let's continue with the conclusion part. In this paper, the heat recovery has been optimized using the new useful method called flowing controlling. The conclusion of this experimental study is follows. The LMTD value for intermittent flow mode decreased about 56%. The total heat absorbed decreased about 8%, and the energy consumed by the pump during flowing the water also decreased 58% compared to that of the continuous flow. Okay, that's all our presentation in this parallel session, and hopefully there is a suggestion, and we can talk more about in this research in question and answer sessions. Okay, thank you everyone.